The conference floor buzzed with excitement. Screens flashed with the company's signature blue. The stage lights were already warming up, and technicians rushed around with clipboards and headsets. Tomorrow was launch day. My launch day. The day the software I had built from scratch would finally go live. 5 years of fixing bugs at 2 a.m., 5 years of covering for incompetent team leads, 5 years of designing features that the executives took credit for. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was that my name would finally be on the spotlight. Or so I thought. I stood near the edge of the main hall, clutching my laptop. The same one filled with the code that had become my life's work. The air felt electric, vibrating with anticipation. My manager, Oliver, had texted me to stop by his office before the final prep meeting. "We need to talk. Quick." I didn't think much of it. Oliver was dramatic about everything. Coffee orders, Slack messages, even calendar invites. Still, something in the pit of my stomach tightened as I walked through the hallway. Dark, quiet, too empty for this time of day. When I knocked on his door, he didn't say, "Come in." He just yelled, "Yeah," like I was an inconvenience typical. I pushed the door open. Oliver was seated behind his desk, leaning back like some king on a throne. Across from him sat a girl, barely 20, bright-eyed, smiling too wide I recognized her. The new intern. Name, Mia? No, Maya. She'd been here for maybe 6 weeks. Oliver clasped his hands together dramatically. "Laura," he said, drawing out every syllable. "We've been reviewing things, and we've decided to go in a new direction." I frowned. "A new direction? For what?" "The launch," he said casually, as though he wasn't detonating a bomb in my life. "We're replacing you with Maya as the product lead." My pulse spiked. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. "You're joking." He smiled. That thin corporate smile that always meant something awful. "We're looking for more energy, fresh ideas. You're incredibly competent, Laura, but we need someone with vibrance, presence, someone who fits the vibe." I blinked. The vibe? Maya twirled a pen between her fingers, trying and failing to hide her smirk. Oliver continued. "Tomorrow, Maya will be presenting the product, leading the rollout, handling press questions. You'll support her transition by handing over your laptop, documentation, everything she might need." My laptop. My code. The room suddenly felt smaller, tighter, suffocating. I took a long, slow breath. "Oliver," I said calmly. "I've been building this software for 3 years. I wrote every line. I know every module, every integration point, every patch. Maya has barely..." He cut me off with a dismissive wave. "Laura, your emotional tone is a lot right now. Try to be a team player." Emotional tone, team player, all the corporate gaslighting greatest hits in one sentence. I looked at Maya. She avoided my eyes. Guilt flickering, but not enough to stop her. Not enough to turn down a promotion built on my work. I forced my breathing to slow. If I reacted now, loudly, emotionally, I would lose. Completely. So instead, I smiled. A small, polite, terrifying smile. "Of course," I said softly. "If that's what the team needs, I respect the decision." Oliver's eyebrows shot up. He hadn't expected that. People like him never expect quiet women to have sharp edges. I opened my laptop, typed a few things, closed it, and placed it gently on his desk. "Good luck tomorrow," I said, handing it to Maya like a gift. "Truly." Oliver beamed, relieved. Maya mumbled a thank you. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that the code they had been bragging about for weeks was still operating under my private license. The company had access, but they didn't own it. They thought they did, of course, because Oliver never reads the fine print and legal never bothered to ask for a formal transfer of IP rights. I had waited for them to treat me like a human being. They didn't. So now they would learn what happens when you mistake quiet for weak. As I stepped out of the office, the air in my lungs felt lighter, cleaner. I walked past the conference hall again, watching the screens flicker with promotional teasers. The entire company was counting down the hours to launch day would be fun. Very, very fun. Because tomorrow the world, and Oliver, would discover just how costly it is to underestimate the wrong woman. The morning of launch day felt strangely calm. Too calm, like the stillness right before a storm breaks. I woke up early, brewed coffee, and sat on my balcony watching the sunrise stretch across the skyline. The city looked peaceful. My mind didn't. Today was the day they'd stand on that stage, smile for the cameras, and pretend the product was theirs. Today was the day Oliver would introduce his brilliant young prodigy, and Maya would take credit for 3 years of work she could barely navigate without Google. But today was also the day everything would catch up with them. Still, I felt no rush, no panic, no guilt. Just clarity. At 8:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Rachel, my closest colleague, the only one who had ever actually seen how much work I did. Rachel, are you coming to the launch? Me, know why? Rachel, you won't believe the chaos here. I'll call you in a minute. Chaos? Already? I set down my coffee just as Rachel called. Laura, she whispered, as if hiding in a supply closet. No one knows where anything is. Oliver somehow thought Maya could walk in and magically understand your entire system. She's been product lead for less than 24 hours and she's already crying in the restroom. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Didn't they have my documentation? That's the problem, Rachel said. Your documentation is connected to your private repository. They didn't realize until this morning the system is asking for your credentials. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Of course it was. It is freaking out, Rachel continued. They're telling Oliver someone needs to contact you immediately. A small, cold smile curled on my lips. And has he? There was a pause. Not yet. He's trying to fix it internally. Typical Oliver, too proud to admit he'd made a mistake, I thanked Rachel and hung up. I could have reached out. I could have offered help. But something inside me, something that had been crushed for years, finally stood up and said, no, not again. Around 10 a.m., I turned on my TV and switched to the live stream of the launch. The stage was bright, polished, packed with reporters and investors. The giant countdown clock behind them read 00, 59:42, less than an hour to go. Oliver walked onto the stage, microphone clipped to his suit, grinning like a politician during election week. He started with his usual speech. Inspirational cliches, dramatic pauses, exaggerated confidence. But underneath the smile, I could see the tension in his jaw. His eyes darted to the side screens a little too often. Something was wrong. Good. Maya appeared next, shaky smile, notes clenched in her hands. She started presenting the product overview, trying to sound polished and assured. But her voice kept wavering, cracking in places she hoped no one would notice. 20 minutes in, Oliver gestured for the technical demo to begin. This was it. The main screen behind them flickered, loading the interface. A loading icon appeared, then a message, license invalid. Ownership verification required contact. L. Hartman, developer license holder. The room froze. The audience murmured. Cameras zoomed in. Oliver's face turned a shade of red I had never seen before. He rushed to the podium, covering the microphone with his hand, hissing something at Maya. She looked like she might faint. Reporters began whispering. Investors exchanged anxious looks. Someone in the front row started filming the error message with their phone. I watched calmly from my couch. On screen, Oliver attempted to improvise. Just a small technical hiccup, nothing to worry about. The screen flickered again. Access denied. Missing authorized credential system locked at 10:27 a.m. by primary developer. The audience erupted into chatter. Rachel texted me instantly. Oliver is sweating. It is running around like their shoes are on fire. This is wild. Another message followed. People are asking who the primary developer is. Oliver is trying not to say your name. He didn't want the world to know the truth, that the company was launching software they didn't legally own, that they had pushed out the one person who actually understood it. The live stream abruptly cut to a technical difficulties screen. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from an unknown number I didn't answer. Seconds later, another call. Then another. At 10:41 a.m., a text appeared. Oliver, we need to talk, now. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the weight of 5 years settle into a single breath. Then I typed, I'm busy. Good luck with the launch. I hit send. And for the first time in years, I felt powerful. The afternoon unfolded in waves of ringing, buzzing, and vibrating chaos. My phone lit up with missed calls faster than I could swipe them away. Unknown numbers, company lines, even Oliver's personal cell. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, eating leftover pasta and watching notifications pour in like I was observing someone else's disaster, not the one I had quietly engineered. At 12:03 p.m., Rachel called. She didn't even say hello. Laura, it's bad. I raised an eyebrow. Define bad. She took a shaky breath. It says they can't legally troubleshoot anything because the license isn't the company's legal is losing their minds. Investors are demanding an explanation. And Oliver? She hesitated. I've never seen him like this. A small part of me, a part I'd buried under years of being polite, accommodating, and quiet, felt a spark of satisfaction. What happened after the live stream cut? I asked. You want the short version or the dramatic version? Give me the truth. Rachel exhaled. They tried to hack into your account. I froze. They what? Oh, don't worry, she said quickly. Security flagged it immediately. The company could get sued just for attempting it. Legal shut it down before it got too far. I rubbed my forehead. They're unbelievable. That's not even the worst part, Rachel continued. One of the investors, the big one, Dawson Capital, demanded to know why the company doesn't own the product's IP. Someone in the back accidentally mentioned your name. You should have seen the looks on their faces. I blinked slowly. That wasn't an accident. She hesitated. No, I don't think it was. Silence stretched between us for a moment. Are you okay? Rachel finally asked. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, for the first time in a long time? Yeah. She let out a breath of relief. Good, because they're going to come crawling, Laura. They're desperate. As soon as we hung up, another text appeared, from one of the senior engineers, Jonas. I had no idea they were doing this to you. If you need a reference or anything, I'm here. Then another. Emily. Just watch the recording. They're screwed without you. And another, dev team group chat. Guys, we messed up. We should have backed you. I stared at the messages, feeling something complicated move inside me. It wasn't vindication. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even pride. It was recognition. The realization that people had seen more than I thought they did. Around 1:20 p.m., my doorbell rang. Twice. 3 times. I walked to the peephole and sighed. Oliver. He stood there sweating through his designer shirt, tie pulled loose, hair messy. A man who'd been humbled by reality. I opened the door just enough to look at him, not enough to let him in. Laura, he said, breathless. We need to talk. No, I replied. You need to talk, I'm listening. He swallowed hard. You know the situation. The launch is dead. The investors want answers. The board wants a fix. We need you to... No. He blinked. No? No, Oliver, I repeated. You made your decision. He stepped forward slightly. I stepped back. We can compensate you. He rushed out. A bonus, equity, a lead role. You replaced me with someone who didn't understand the product, I I said quietly. You told me she fit the vibe better. You humiliated me behind closed doors and expected me to hand over everything like a good little employee. That was a mistake, he said quickly. I admit that now. I panicked. You didn't panic, I corrected. You underestimated me. He looked like I'd slapped him. I took a slow breath. The only reason you're here is because you thought I'd be too scared to walk away. You assumed my loyalty was permanent. It wasn't. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Look, we can fix this. If you give us access to the license. There it is, I said softly. He froze. What? That's all you care about, not me. Not the work, not what you did. My voice stayed calm, steady. Just the code. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, Goodbye, Oliver. I began to close the door. His hand shot out, stopping it. Laura, please. I met his eyes through the narrow gap. The eyes of a man who finally realized he wasn't in control. Move your hand, I said. He did. The door shut with a soft, final click. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with something much stronger. Freedom. I walked back to my living room, my phone buzzing again with new messages. Among them was one from a number I hadn't seen in years, Andrew Carter. I heard what happened at the launch today. Are you available to talk? I stared at the message. For the first time since this all began, the future didn't look uncertain. It looked promising. Very promising. I stared at Andrew Carter's message for a full minute before I even breathed. Andrew had once been the only executive in the company who actually understood what I did. Not just technically, but strategically. He'd championed my early prototypes. He'd pushed for budget increases. He'd defended me during meetings where Oliver tried to take credit for features he couldn't even explain. And then, 3 years ago, the board pushed Andrew out after clashing with the CEO one too many times. The company had never recovered from losing him. Not in innovation, not in leadership, not in morale. Now he was messaging me. My thumb hovered over the screen before I finally typed, I'm available. What's going on? Andrew, I'll call you in 10. I set the phone down, suddenly aware of how quiet my apartment was. The launch disaster still played on repeat in my mind. Oliver sweating, Maya panicking, investors demanding answers. But beneath that, something new was growing. Possibility. At exactly 10 minutes, my phone lit up. Laura? Andrew's voice hadn't changed. Calm, warm, sharp. The kind of voice that made people sit straighter. Hi, Andrew, I said, trying to keep my composure. I'm guessing your morning was eventful, he said. You could call it that. He let out a breath that sounded halfway between a laugh and disbelief. I saw the clip online. My phone hasn't stopped ringing investors, reporters, former colleagues. Everyone wants to know how the company managed to launch a product they don't own. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Laura, he continued, I'm going to ask you something directly. Are you looking for your next step? I leaned back in my chair. I haven't really thought that far. Well, Andrew said, I have. It was quiet for a moment. I'm building a new firm, Carter Technologies, he explained. We're focusing on scalable software solutions for logistics and healthcare sectors. I need a head of engineering, someone who understands systems deeply, someone who's proven they can create something from nothing. My heartbeat quickened. And you want that to be me? I've wanted that to be you for years, he said. The only reason I didn't reach out sooner was because I knew you were loyal to your team, but after what happened today? He paused. I'm not going to pretend this wasn't the opportunity I was waiting for. I exhaled, letting the reality settle. What exactly are you offering? A director role, full authority over your department, a salary that reflects your actual worth. And, he added, equity. Equity. The word hit different. It meant ownership, power, a say in what I created. Can you come by the office tomorrow? Andrew asked. I want to show you what we're building." I didn't hesitate. "Yes, I'll be there." After the call, I sat quietly for a while. The room felt lighter somehow, like the air itself had shifted. It wasn't just that someone wanted me. It was that someone saw me around 3 p.m. Rachel texted. Update. The board called an emergency meeting. Oliver looked like he was about to pass out. Me. Anything on the product? Rachel. They're considering scrapping the whole launch. Investors are furious. Honestly, it's a meltdown. I typed a quick reply, but before I could hit send, another text came in. Rachel. Also, people know you didn't sabotage anything. Word is spreading fast. Folks are saying the company pushed out the person who built the entire system. Kinda proud of you. A strange mixture of sadness and gratitude washed over me. I had spent so long feeling invisible there. I never expected anyone to defend me after I left. By early evening, I decided to take a walk. The air was crisp, the sidewalks busy, the city humming with life. I let my feet take me wherever they wanted. A quiet park near the water, I sat on a bench, watching waves hit the rocks. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about deadlines, bug reports, or Oliver's condescending tone. I wasn't dreading Monday mornings. I wasn't bracing myself to be overlooked again. I was thinking about tomorrow. A new company, a new role, a new beginning. And in that quiet moment, I realized something important. Something I wished I had understood years ago. Sometimes the universe doesn't push you out of a place because you're losing something. Sometimes it kicks you out because you're finally ready for something better. I looked out at the darkening horizon, my reflection wavering on the water's surface. Tomorrow, everything would change, and for once, the change would be on my terms. I arrived at Carter Technologies the next morning with a strange mix of confidence and disbelief. The building wasn't flashy or towering like my old company's headquarters. It was modest, 3 floors, glass entrance, modern interior. But something about it felt alive, purposeful, like a place where things were built, not stolen. Andrew met me in the lobby. He looked energized, almost younger than I remembered Laura, he said warmly, shaking my hand. Welcome. He gave me a tour. Open workspaces filled with actual collaboration, whiteboards covered in real ideas, not corporate buzzwords, and a small but passionate team that greeted him like they genuinely liked him. We ended in a quiet conference room. This, he said, sliding a folder in front of me, is the official offer. I opened it. A director title, a competitive salary, actual leadership authority, and significant equity. Real equity, not the fake promises my old company dangled like a carrot. I met his eyes. Andrew, this is generous. It's what you're worth. He leaned forward slightly. I'm not hiring you for what you did at your previous company. I'm hiring you for what you can build here. Those words settled deep in my chest, grounding me in a way I didn't expect. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a call from Rachel. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. Rachel? I answered. Oh my God, Laura, you need to hear this, she said, breathless. The board just finished their emergency meeting. And? They fired Oliver. I froze. Already? He tried to blame the whole thing on you, she said. Claimed you sabotaged the launch out of revenge. IT and legal shut that down immediately. They told the board the system error wasn't sabotage. It was negligence. On his part. Of course it was. Rachel continued. Investors pulled out. The board said they can't recover the product in time. They canceled the project entirely. I leaned against the wall, absorbing the words. She exhaled. Honestly, I think this is the best thing that could have happened to all of us. People are relieved he's gone. Toxic leadership only lasts so long. We talked a bit longer. She was considering leaving the company as well. Then hung up. For a moment, I stood there in the quiet hallway, my phone warm in my hand, the weight of everything hitting me at once. 5 years of being overlooked. 5 years of being dismissed, minimized, replaced. 5 years of quietly carrying the company on my back. And now it had all collapsed. Not because I destroyed anything, but because they had built everything on arrogance and shortcuts. "Everything okay?" Andrew asked gently when I stepped back inside. I nodded slowly. "Better than okay." He sat across from me again. "Before you answer, I want you to know something I'm not asking you to join because of what happened at your old company. I'm asking because I believe you're the kind of leader who builds, not breaks." His words were steady, grounded, real. "Laura," he continued, "I want you to say yes because this is where you want to be, not because you're running from something else." That stopped me, because it was true. For the first time, I wasn't running. I wasn't reacting. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was choosing. I closed the folder, slid it back to him, and smiled. "I accept." The relief on his face was genuine. "Welcome to Carter Technologies," he said. We shook hands, and just like that, the future shifted. That afternoon, after my onboarding and introductions, I stepped into what would now be my office, a smaller space than the corner rooms executives fought over, but with a window overlooking the city and enough room for everything I needed. As I placed my bag on the desk, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number, but I didn't need to open it to know exactly who it was. I read the message anyway. "Oliver. I heard where you ended up. You could have fixed things here. You chose to burn bridges." "Oliver. I hope it was worth it." I stared at the screen for a moment, considering my response. Then I typed, "I didn't burn a bridge. I walked away from one that was already collapsing. And yes, it was worth it." I hit send. Then, without a second thought, I blocked the number. As evening settled in, I sat at my new desk. The city lights flickering outside, the office was quiet, peaceful. I opened my laptop and began mapping out the new system architecture Andrew and I had discussed. Piece by piece, I felt myself rebuilding. Not the product, not the code, but my sense of worth. And in that calm, steady silence, the most powerful truth finally settled. Being underestimated isn't an insult. It's a warning. Not about you, but about them. Tomorrow, everything would begin again. On my terms. In my space. In a place where I wasn't replaceable. I was essential. And this time, I wasn't handing over anything I built. I was building a future they would never be part of.